But today, it is an exciting day. We have a lot to celebrate, and I know Matt said something about it, but you've got this card here. I am going to ask you to commit to partnering with us financially at the end. I'm just going to tell you that, right? And I want to put you at ease because I understand when it comes to our money, there are a couple of questions that we want to get answered. And I think these are a couple of questions that we ask regardless of what it is. Why should I? And is there value? Why should I, whatever it is that someone's asking you to give or to purchase, and is there value? And I think those are legitimate and reasonable questions to ask anytime you're going to spend your money on something or you're going to give your money to something. Those are legit. I do the same thing. Regardless of what it is, I ask those same questions. Whether I'm buying something or whether I'm giving money to something, I ask those questions. Is there value, and why should I? And so I believe it's our responsibility to answer those questions for you. And that's my challenge today. And that's what I hope to get across today. And so take the card, set it aside. We'll come back to it, all right? But I just wanted to get that out of the way and just let you know we're not dancing around it. I'm not apologetic about it. But I do think we have a lot to celebrate today. And that's what today is all about. And so we'll get to that at the end. So just hang tight on that. But before we get into really what I want to talk about, and it kind of leads into it, I want to play a game with you guys, all right? And I don't know if you've heard this game. It's called the Opposites game, all right? I'm going to put a word on the screen, and I want you guys to yell out what you think the opposite of it is, all right? Here we go. First one. Tall. Right. Somebody say my name over here. You got to check your heart, all right? Okay, let's keep going. Fast. Very good. How do you know? I could outrun you. How do you know? You know what I mean? I'm not even going to talk to you guys today. Actually, maybe I need to talk to y'all a little bit more. Here we go. Good. All right. Happy. Hot. God. So, yeah, what? That's a tricky one. Yeah, I'm trying to trick you. Because we would think that the opposite of God is the devil or Satan, right? I mean, when you're thinking about do you worship God or do you worship the devil? That's kind of what we think about when we look at those two elements. Jesus opened our eyes to something, and it's curious to me, and maybe it is or isn't, or maybe you've ever thought about it before or not, but look at what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and wealth. Now, isn't that interesting? It's curious to me. I don't know if it is to you or not. But in the context of Jesus talking about serving two masters, that you can be devoted to one or the other, that you are despise the one or hate the other. It's God and wealth. It's God and money. And you may have heard this passage read, or you may have come across it and read it before, and perhaps you didn't think twice about it. You just read it. But when I'm reading it and I'm preparing for today, it struck me as curious that Jesus talked about God and wealth in the same context of serving two masters. And he said, you can't serve two. And we see this principle and this idea other places in Scripture. And I want to go to one in 1 Kings. If you've got your Bible or your app, or if you're taking notes, write this passage down and go back and read the story as a whole. And I'm going to kind of summarize it and read a couple of passages in it. But 1 Kings, at the end of chapter 16, we see where King Ahab, the king of Israel, he marries Jezebel. Now, Jezebel was a non-Israelite, which was a big no-no, but he did it anyway. And as a result, they began to worship false gods, and specifically Baal. And because of this, God sent a prophet, Elijah, to go and talk to Ahab and say, listen, you guys are worshiping these false idols, and as a result of this, God's going to bring a famine on the land. It's not going to rain for 3 years. And Ahab's like, oh, okay, whatever. They go on about their way. Well, time goes on, and no rain is happening. Well, Ahab begins to want to find Elijah and take him out, right? He's the source of all these problems. And so he begins to hunt Elijah down. Well, Elijah has been hiding out and staying safe and out of harm's way of King Ahab and his orders. He's got men searching the countryside looking for him. Well, 3 years go by. God gives word to Elijah, says, okay, now's the time that I'm going to bring rain back on the land, but I need you to talk to King Ahab. So Elijah says, okay. So he's out here in the wilderness. And he comes face to face with Ahab, and we see this message that Elijah has. Before he gets into the communication part of it, he tells him in verse 19 of chapter 18. If you're there, 1 Kings 18, verse 19. He says, "Now send and gather to me all Israel at Mount Carmel, together with 450 prophets of Baal, and 400 prophets of the Asherah who eat at Jezebel's table." This was his King Ahab's wife. So he wants to bring all these people together that are the prophets of these false gods. And he comes, they gather around, and we see in verse 21, Elijah came near to the people and he said, "How long will you hesitate between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal, follow him." The people did not answer him a word. And so what they do, Elijah says, all right, so we're going to gather together things to build an altar. And we're going to get 2 ox. We're going to make 2 altars. We're going to put an ox on this altar and an ox on this altar. And then we're going to call down fire from our gods. And we're going to see which god brings fire. And so the prophets of Baal, they're like, oh, this is a great idea. All right, good. So they get together and they start calling down fire from Baal. Well, as you can imagine, nothing happens. And in verse 26, you see they took the ox which was given them, and they prepared it and called on the name of Baal from morning to noon, saying, "O Baal, answer us." But there was no voice, and no one answered. They leapt about the altar which they made, and it came about at noon that Elijah mocked them. And he said, "Call out a little louder." Maybe he can't hear you, right? He says he's a god. So either he's occupied, or he's gone aside, or he's on a journey, or perhaps he's asleep and needs to be awakened, right? I mean, so you see him mocking their calling out to this false god. So they cried with a loud voice, and they cut themselves according to their custom with swords and lances until the blood gushed out on them. So all this is going on, and Elijah finally, he lets it go on for a little bit. It gets to the evening, and Elijah's like, all right, enough's enough. That's enough, all right? We pick up in 31. We're going to read through the end of this section here, down to 39. So Elijah took 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord had come, saying, "Israel shall be your name." So with the stones, he built an altar in the name of the Lord. And he made a trench around the altar, large enough to hold 2 measures of seed. Then he arranged the wood, cut the ox in pieces, and laid it on the wood. Now, he said, fill 4 pitchers, take 4 pitchers and fill them with water. Pour it on the burnt offering, on the wood, and then do it a second time, and then do it a third time. And so they did it. So we've got 12 pitchers of water having been dumped on this altar. Now, this doesn't make any sense, right? You're going to call down fire from your God, but you're adding water to this. I mean, it doesn't even make sense from an optics standpoint, right? So then he arranged the wood, they filled the water flowed around the altar, and he also filled the trench with water. And at the time of the offering, of the evening sacrifice, Elijah came near and he said, "O Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, today let it be known that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and that I have done all these things at your word. Answer me, O Lord, answer me, that this people may know that you, O Lord, are God, and that you have turned their hearts back again." And then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt offering, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. Now, can you imagine this scene? that the fire comes down and consumes everything around it. And then when the people saw it, they fell on their faces and they said, "The Lord, He is God. The Lord, He is God." Now, there's some principles in this story that I want to take and I want us to move forward with. And we're going to come back to this story, so kind of keep it in the back of your mind here. But there are some things as we move forward and as we're talking about what we're going to be moving into more in this conversation today, I want us to look at, because I believe it parallels a lot in where we're going to be in 2 Corinthians here in just a little bit. Here are some of those principles. Number one, people are watching. We know there that he got all 450 prophets of Baal, 400 prophets of the Asherah, and then he wanted all the people of Israel, he wanted everybody to come around and see what God was going to do. So you got people watching. Here's the next one. He got direction from God. Elijah got direction from God. This was Elijah's story. This was Elijah's story. We don't see this event happening anywhere else in Scripture. This isn't a directive to us that we should go out and pour water on an altar and call down fire from heaven. That's not our story. This was Elijah's story. He got a directive from God, and he went and followed that. Here's what else he did. You remember the statement. He did it in the name of the Lord. He says, "I've done all of this in your name." It wasn't about what he could get out of it. It wasn't about his glory. He did it so that God would be glorified. It didn't make sense. Right? I mean, this doesn't even make any sense. If you're going to say, "Prove your God to me," we're not going to go out and we're not going to pour a bunch of water on an altar and call down fire. The circumstances that Elijah was walking into didn't make any sense. And he made it more nonsensical by adding the water and everything else on top of it. But here's what we saw. God provided. Right? God provided what God called Elijah to do. God provided. And finally, here's the most important of all of it. God was glorified. Hundreds, and I believe eventually as a result, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of lives were ultimately changed because of what they saw God do through the work that he did. And so I want to go back into this statement that Jesus makes where he says that you can't serve two gods. That you can't serve two gods and you can't serve God or wealth. And when we see in Scripture so often, and we see the story of Jesus and the rich young ruler, and he tells him to go sell all your stuff, it's not a command for us to go and sell all of our stuff. It's not a command to live homeless and poor and broke and give everything away. That's not what Jesus is trying to get across. The idea is the understanding of where is your trust? Where's your trust? Where's your hope? Where's your confidence? Jesus says your confidence, your hope, your trust can't be in money. To put your hope, to put your confidence, to put your trust in God. And now when it comes to this practice of letting go of trusting in money, and it comes to the taking the step of faith in giving, I want us to go back and look at some of those principles that we just looked at. The first one that I think that I want to get across, some of you, maybe this is the first time you've been here since we've taught on giving, and maybe you've been taught different things throughout the course of your life in different church messages or conversations about giving. Here's the very first thing. Number one, you need to take direction from God. Take direction from God. Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 9. We're going to be in this passage for a little bit. If you want to flip over there, turn over there on your app, or just, we got you on the screen here. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7. Everyone must do just as he has purposed in his heart, not grudgingly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. Everyone must do as he's purposed in his heart. Now, how many of you have been told before that you got to give a certain amount in order for God to be pleased with you, right? I mean, maybe you've been taught tithing or you have to give a 10%. Well, that's not what Paul is commanding here. He says we should give. Yeah, we should, but you should give what you've purposed in your heart. Take direction from God on what it is that you are to give. And allow that to be what drives you in the direction of what you give. So the first one is to take direction from God. Here's the second one. Do it in the name of the Lord. Do it in the name of the Lord. Colossians 3. Look at what Paul says here in Colossians 3. Whatever you do, whether it's in word or in something that you do from a deed standpoint, do it in the name of the Lord, giving thanks to Him, to God the Father. Do it in the name of the Lord. Do it in the name of the Lord because here's what I believe. You can't do it in the name of the Lord if you're doing it because a man told you what to do. You're doing it in the name of that person and what they told you to do. If I stand up here and tell you, you have to give this much, then you're going to do it in the name of Matt. That's not the command that we've been given. Whatever you purpose in your heart, do it in the name of the Lord. Here's what you need to know, though. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense. And I don't know, whatever it is, each of us are different, right? I mean, we all have our own story, like Elijah had his own story. It was different from other prophets and other circumstances and other situations. We all have our own story. We all have our own circumstances. So whatever it is that God purposes in your heart, we should do that in the name of the Lord, but it might not make any sense. Here's what else you need to know. God provides. Look in 2 Corinthians 9, verse 8. If God puts it on your heart and you're doing it in His name, even though it might not make sense, look at this promise in verse 8. And some of you who may be struggling with this or may not, you're just wrestling with what this looks like. Circle verse 8. Put this on the floor and stand on that promise. You say, I can't believe you're standing on the Bible. Stand on this promise. Verse 8, look at what he says. God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that always having all sufficiency in everything, you may have an abundance for every good deed. 3 different times in this passage, he tells you that God will provide. He'll make all grace abound, you'll have all sufficiency in everything, and you may have an abundance for every good need. Many of you have a story of not giving and not understanding why and not really thinking about it, whatever it was. And you came to a point where you thought, you know what? I'm just going to take that step of faith and do it. And you have stories of where God led you to give something. You did it cheerfully because you wanted to, you just didn't know where to start and what to do. It may not have made much sense to you, but you did, and you saw God provide and God take care of you. Maybe you have a story very similar to Kevin and Heather Avery. Check this out.
Hi, I'm Kevin.
I'm Heather. I think we're going to talk about our journey to giving a little bit today. We got married almost 5 years ago, and I think like most families coming together and couples at that point in your life, there's a lot to deal with, a wedding, combining finances, houses, trying to budget and figure out where we are in life and how we can make that work together. And obviously after the wedding, we decided we wanted a child, so there's those expenses. We got busy, with you have our son, and then busy with our son, and those expenses unfortunately don't stop once they come. So it really took us a while to get to that spot where we felt comfortable, and not like we were going to be hurting ourselves financially to be able to give to the church.
So when we were talking about giving and thinking about it, it's something that really I never really thought about. It's just something I always thought took care of itself. From the time I was a child, just always thought the older folks in the church would take care of it. And it really didn't fall on my shoulders yet. And so once I really thought about it, I thought, it's time for us to step up as a family and to give to the church. Heather and I, one night, we were just discussing, we wanted to give, we knew we wanted to, we weren't sure where to start. So we were talking about it, talked with Matt a little bit, and we just decided to jump in and start giving. It was small, we just knew we needed to start, kind of get that foundation going. Like you said, there was expenses, things that we thought money could go to, but we knew we needed to start giving to the church. And so the biggest step was just that initial first time to give. And it felt really good to give, and something that we wanted to continue doing, and it just grew from there. As we would give, and you would see in Kid City or kids being baptized, and just seeing how that money is going back to the church to help it grow in its mission of reaching others and to bring them to Christ. That's something that I don't think money can buy, the happiness and the giving that we were able to see through that. And so we're just so fortunate and blessed that God blessed us to be able to give back to the church, to really see His work continue to be done here.
Absolutely. And giving it with the community, what the church is able to do too, not just within the church, but being able to have that outreach within the community to possibly bring those kids to Christ also. And it's really just a peace on your heart that you just feel at peace with your decision, when you decide to give. It's not something you're going to regret. There's no right or wrong amount. Any amount, any big or small, you just got to start somewhere like we've done. And it gave us the want to do more. How much more can we do? And that's special to see that impact it has on you and then everyone you're affecting.
Another thing that I feel like we've found out through this process when we started giving is that God loves a cheerful giver, and it feels so good when we do give that we've noticed that you can't outgive God as much as He's given to us and the impact that He's made on our life and our church family.
Many of you may have a similar story. And many of you may be sitting in that seat where they were at one point, like wrestling with it and questioning what that is. I want to go back to 1 Kings 18. And there's a passage between the declaration of the famine coming and the scene with the altars. There's a part in there where there's a man that comes into the picture. In 18, in verse 3, and we only see him for 14 verses. And this is all we see this man by the name of Obadiah. But what Obadiah does is he is used by God ultimately, but Ahab sends him out to look for Elijah. So he goes out, he sees Elijah, he notices him, and Obadiah has proven himself in other ways to be a man of God and a man of faith. And when he recognizes Elijah, he knows who he is. And Elijah says, I need you to go back and tell your king that I'm here and to come to me. And Obadiah says, hold up. Ahab has killed some people that have come back and said they thought they saw you and you weren't there. And when I go back to Ahab and tell him you're here, the Spirit of God's going to take you away from here to protect you. And I get back here, he's going to kill me. Elijah says, as sure as I'm standing here, as sure as the Lord is God, I will be here when Ahab gets back. And so Obadiah goes and gets King Ahab and brings him back to Elijah so Elijah can move forward with what God has for him that day. Now, why Obadiah? I don't know. Why not? Because God's purpose was going to be carried out, one way or the other. Obadiah could have taken off running and kept running and never gone to Ahab because he was scared to death. But he didn't. He went to see Ahab. He told him Elijah was here, and he came back. Obadiah became a part of this story and participated in this story and this great work that God did because he was willing to be a part of it. He wanted to participate in what was going to transpire through what Elijah did. And ultimately, because Obadiah participated in this, he was a part of thousands of lives being changed. So here's the opportunity that we have. When we talk about whether or not we're going to partner financially with Heritage Church and the ministry here, we have the opportunity to participate in what God is doing. Because make no mistake, God's purpose is going to get carried out. But what he offers all of us is the opportunity to participate in this way in order to do it. And the story that God is writing here at Heritage. And he's already written several chapters. Now, some of them read like a cheap novel, but we've got a lot left to be written. And the story looks a lot of different ways. And some of you are already participating in some of that. But whether that's in the back with Kids City and what we're doing with the kids, and across the hall with the hangout and the students, and creating community that many of you are involved with, building relationships with others. We want to enhance that as new people begin to come, and God sends us more and more people that have the opportunity to hear the message of the gospel and their life be transformed and their life be changed. We have people driving from New Boston, DeKalb, Idabel, Atlanta, Queen City, Bloomberg, Hope, Nashville, Ashdown, Locksburg. We have people driving from all over this area coming to hear the message of God's grace that want to participate in what we're doing. We want to enhance what we're doing here. I think part of the story of what God's doing here at Heritage and the vision He's given us to transform Texarkana as a result of all of these people coming from all over the region is that our vision to transform Texarkana has expanded regionally. All of this here, these are people who have come from all over the area since August. These are first-time guests. Some of y'all's names are in here. These are our first-time guests just since August. These people, this stack, are the stack of people that have come from the west end of Bowie County. They're West Enders. God bless them. Amen, These are people that are driving from Ashdown, Foreman, Locksburg, Nashville. These are people that are driving from Cass County to come here to be a part of what we're doing. But the reality of it is, it's a nice little drive. And so, they may or may not come on a regular basis. So, part of our vision of transforming Texarkana may be to go where they are, to participate in what we're doing, to be a part of what God is doing through this story here at Heritage. I believe part of the story is to expand and grow in our relationships with some of these organizations that we partner with here in this community and in this region. Friday, I spent an hour on the phone with a lady trying to figure out how we can address this issue of foster care in our community. We've got kids that are being orphaned, that are sleeping in the floor of government organizations' offices because there are no homes for them to sleep in. We have an opportunity to speak into and to be a light in the darkness for these kids. We want to go deeper in that. First Choice Pregnancy Resource Center, it's the mission and the organization that we're talking about this month. We're partnering with them through the bottle drive. You can grab one of those if you haven't already. Bring it back. In 2 weeks will be the end of that, but we've got the Walk for Life coming up. We want to be more engaged with that. The more this conversation about dehumanizing babies in the womb grows in our culture, the more we need to be speaking into that situation with truth. And there are organizations that are doing that we can partner with and empower and enhance our relationships. And there are a half a dozen others that we work together with that are meeting needs of people that are reaching folks in our region and our communities. That I believe part of our story is to grow deeper in that. I believe part of the story is to reach this growing population of college students in this community. The more Texarkana College and the more Texas A&M Texarkana grow in what they're doing, the more I believe we have the opportunity for students who are entering into a season of life where the majority of them who have grown up in faith leave the faith. 70% of kids that go off to school, that leave their households, that were raised in an environment where faith was important and communicated, 70% leave the faith during college. We have a tremendous opportunity in this community to reach those kids. And on and on and on. whatever it looks like moving forward in our story, there's a prevailing theme that doesn't change, and it's this. We want to see life change through transformation. We want to see life change in transformation. Whatever that looks like, in whatever environment, in whatever way, everybody has their own story of what led you to life change and how your life began to be transformed. Because make no mistake about it, just as hundreds of people gathered together to see what God was going to do through the work of Elijah, you can be sure about this. People are watching. People are watching. You know that. People are watching from inside and out. People are watching what we're doing. And they want to know, are you really doing what you say you want to do? Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 9. Verse 12 through 13. Look at this. The ministry of this service is not only fully supplying the needs of the saints, but is overflowing through many thanksgiving to God because of the proof. Because of the proof. See, I think sometimes we shy away from wanting proof of what we're doing. And we say, well, it's not very spiritual to show evidence of the ministry and the work. Paul's saying because of the proof that is given by this ministry, and he's talking about generosity and giving, they will glorify God for your obedience to your confession of the gospel of Christ and for the liberality of your contribution to them and to all. We have a ministry here, and we say that Sunday morning we want to create environments where people can come, people that are unchurched, people that had a bad church experience, that are de-churched, that don't want anything to do with church in some way, shape, or form. We want them to come and have a great experience, ultimately hear the message of the gospel of Jesus, and that their life is transformed. You want proof of that? Listen to Jason and Becky Williams' story.
It's like a big family, and it's no judgment or anything. My name's Jason Williams. I'm the owner and operator of Benchmark American Brasserie, and this is my wife, Becky Williams, and she is the executive chef and owner of Benchmark as well. Matt and I have known each other since we were in high school, teenagers together, and so I kind of felt comfortable with Matt, and he used to come into Pecan Point, which I operated at the time, and I would see him quite often, and I followed the Magnuses on Facebook, and they were always posting about heritage and how fun it is and all of this, and then when Matt got the promotion to lead pastor, I remember complimenting him, saying, "Hey man, good job, man! Congratulations on your new job." And I kind of felt this opening for me to put something forward. I don't know if I was looking to do or looking to find a home or something. And one day he came in for lunch, and I sat down and was talking with him. I said, just kind of out in the open, let him know my previous past I grew up in a church for most of my life until I became an adult, and then just never really cared for it, didn't really care for the organized religion, and a lot of the fire and brimstone, and do this or don't do this, or you're going to go to you're going to burn in hell for this, and it led me to my adult life of becoming very agnostic or even atheist. And usually when I start that conversation with people, most people go, "Well, I'm going to pray for you. I need to pray for you." And I'm like, "Okay." And Matt was very, very open with it. He was like, "Oh, I understand that. I can understand where you come to the point where you are." And at the time, I was kind of, okay.
I did grow up in Falk, Arkansas, which is a very small town with a lot of churches. So I went Sunday school or, maybe a vacation Bible school or two with my friends when I was younger, but it was just never something that was even considered. I actually don't really know much about the Bible in general. A lot of everything that I've learned, including the meaning of Easter and all that stuff, just, from going and attending Heritage. So I was completely shocked when Jason, said we're going to go to a chili cook-off. He kind of had to force me to go, but, he's right. It was a completely different experience than anything I had went to previously as a kid, where they, kind of call you out, or like you said, well, we're going to pray for you, and they all kind of get in your business and tell you how they feel you should be, doing stuff. And for me personally, I've never really been a conform or be scorned kind of person. I almost want to do the opposite in that situation. So it was just, it was a big deal for me to actually attend, more than the chili cook-off or go. But that first event was great. I mean, everyone was very relaxed. It didn't really seem so much like a church. It's more of like a gathering, a community, and everyone was there kind of doing their own thing. And everyone immediately introduced themselves, and played with the kids. And I mean, once they were, in there and saw Kids City, it was over with. Lucy she was down. She had church. She went to church. And with Julian, this is his first experience in church, and he's 13. And we were really concerned about that because Jason had a horrible experience as a preteen in church. And watching him go into it with the kind of mindset that I have, which is far more open because, we don't know much about it, has really been interesting, especially because he loves it. And yesterday, he was actually just going on and on. Whatever they talked about in the hangout yesterday just had him going. And it's really kind of cool to see. Yeah, it's refreshing. It's cool to see. And I mean, I'm not going to lie, it takes a little bit of parenting pressure off of me. Now they have something else to worry about than mom. But they're just really enjoying it.
Probably besides going on a Sunday service or something with my mother because she asked me to, it's probably been, I'd say, about 25 or more years since I've actually been to a church service. And now we've been going for a year. But my mom, was always, hey, wanting me to get back into church. The kids need to be in church. The kids need to be raised in church, Jason. The kids, and I understand, I said, but, because of my experience, I was like, I don't really feel that, that I want to put them in that. And now that we started going back to church and are enjoying it, my parents who haven't regularly attended church that they're members of in a while have been coming regular with me too, and she's there in support, and she's also started, and like I said, enjoying it herself.
I don't know if this is the best expression, but it just reminds me of the Nirvana song, Come As You Are. I'm like, they accept you for who you are. They don't care your past, your present, your future, as long as you're coming and you want to be a part of it. I mean, you're a part of them. You're immediately a part of their family. You get treated that way, I mean, from everyone. I've made so many friends, acquaintances, see people out. I tell people all the time, like, yeah, just come with me. I'm still learning. It's like kind of like a classroom for me every week. I learn something new every week.
And it's given me a sense of belonging to something bigger than myself, which I guess I probably for the past 20-something years I've been in search of. And now I'm giving back, and now that we have the means, the ability, maybe through our business or whatever, it's given us an avenue to be able to give back to the community that we're a part of and that supports us. It's at your own pace. Nobody, nobody's rushing you to. It's your relationship with God and Jesus, and however you see fit to work, do it, and that's it. There's not a set of rules. I mean, and come on, man. You'll enjoy it. I promise you.
Come as you are, as you were, as I want you.
Yeah. I can't thank Jason and Becky enough for doing that. She was extremely terrified. I told her we'd make her look like a video superstar, and I thought they did great. They just poured out their heart, and they were transparent and honest, and that's what we wanted. And so the evidence that what God is doing here at Heritage, and this isn't about me, this isn't about you, this is about God's story that He's writing here at Heritage and the lives that are being transformed, because ultimately, here's what we want to happen. That God is glorified. That God is glorified through all of this and what we're talking about and what we're doing. So here we are. And we've got this card here. Look, grab the card. And here's what we've come up with, because in the past, because maybe you're like the Averys and you don't even know where to start, right? You want to start somewhere. And in the past, if you've been a part of what we've taught, look, if you don't know where to start, just start at 1%. Just start at 1% and start there and see what God does. Well, 1%, some of you have started there and you've shared stories about what God has done through that and about the participation in that. But what also I know is that 1% is kind of arbitrary. It's just a number out there, right? And so we've created this step-in point, the starting point. Maybe this is where you want to be. Will you pull that graphic back up? It's the other one. It's Generosity Transformer. You can step in and be a Generosity Transformer at this amount. You just showed it there, Greg. You spoiled the surprise. $25 a week. You say, Matt, how is that not arbitrary? Well, here's why. Because based off of our budget and our attendance and what it costs us to do ministry, it costs us about $25 per week per person to do the work of ministry here at Heritage. Now, we can continue to do that as we're doing now, as long as we don't experience much growth. But in order to move forward in what we're doing and the story that God has for us, what I'm asking some of you is to jump on board and participate in this initiative and become a generosity transformer. And what we've decided and determined is that a generosity transformer is someone who is giving at minimum, and maybe it's more, but at minimum $25 a week. And when I'm asking you to sign up for online reoccurring giving, it's the best and easiest way to give. And we do that with so many other things in our lives, right? I mean, I've got subscriptions to Apple Music, right? I sign up for it, it comes out. I saw value in the library of music that they provide. Zips Car Wash. Some of you sign up for reoccurring debit out of your account to have unlimited car washes. And some of you don't ever go get your car washed. Netflix, right? We see value in Netflix and what they have. I got an email yesterday. Many of you have gotten, if you've got a Netflix account, you got the email. They're raising your monthly subscription price to $2 more a month. They said, if you want to unsubscribe, click here. Well, I'm just going to let them take the extra $2 because we watch Netflix from time to time. The gym. I'm going to give you guys a story of what I've done in the past. I don't know if you've ever been here or not. I have signed up for a gym membership. I have had them debit a certain amount of money out of my account, and I went for a little bit, and then I stopped going. But you know what I kept doing? I kept having the money debited out of my account. But I stopped going. I never went. And they kept debiting it out, and I never got anything out of it. I don't go to the gym, but I'm paying for a membership. How ridiculous is that? Here's the good news. When you sign up for online recurring giving, even when you don't come, you don't have to feel bad because you're still helping us carry out the mission. Because what it does, it allows us to plan. It allows us to plan in what we're doing moving forward because we have an understanding and an idea of what we're going to have week to week, month to month moving forward as we grow and expand. So, some of you have already gotten this card, but if you determine in your heart that you want to start out at some point, $25 a week for somebody, maybe you thought, you know what, I didn't realize that was the cost of ministry. Someone else has been taking care of that. You may say, you know what, I want to do for someone else what someone's been doing for me. And you may want to start out at $25 a week. When you do that, we're going to send you this card. And on this card, it just says, thank you for being a Generosity Transformer. And there's this credit card-like reminder for you that I want you to keep in your wallet. I keep mine in my wallet. This is my wallet. This isn't the time to make fun of my wallet. It is what it is. But I keep mine in here. And I want this to be a reminder to you that you are participating in God's story at Heritage in changing lives. That you're a participant in that. And I want it to be a card of freedom. Because what does the enemy always do anytime you've decided in your heart what you're going to do? He always tells you, it's not enough. God's not pleased with that. You should be doing more. That's not the command. The command is, the instruction is, the encouragement from Paul is that whatever you purpose in your heart. So when you get to the store and you're going to buy that purse, or you're going to buy that gun, or you're going to buy those shoes, and you pull out your purchasing power, you can look and you can buy whatever it is you're buying with a clear conscience and free of condemnation because you've determined in your heart what God has put on your heart that you're going to give. And you're doing it, so live in freedom with whatever else God blesses you with and does in your life. I want it to be a reminder, and I want it to be a source of freedom for you. And I know sometimes we have a hard time with a name it, claim it, prosperity gospel. But this is one time I'm going to encourage you to name it and claim it, because $25 a week has a name on it. And you go out in that hallway on Sunday mornings before the service starts, and you see that green team out there, and you see those guests walking in those doors for the first time. That might be the first time that their ears are open and their hearts receptive to the message of the gospel, and that first time leads to their life being changed. Go stand out in the hall. We can make a transformation tunnel and stand out there, have them come in and cheer them on when they walk through. But you go out there and you see them walking around, and you know that you're a part of that. So here's what I'm asking you to do. The band's going to come out. They're going to sing a closing song. And in this song, it was intentionally picked out to encourage you that we can trust God. That we can trust God even when it doesn't make any sense, even when we don't know all of what He's doing, we can trust Him. I want you to take this card. During the song, I want you to take this card, talk to your husband, your wife, pray about it, think about it, whatever it is, and whatever you purpose in your heart. Now, we have this goal of 400 generosity transformers. Here's the cool thing. We already have 187 who are generosity transformers that are among us right here. Some of you, that doesn't excite some of y'all. I don't know. That's pretty exciting to me. Now, we have a 2-year goal of 400. Now, if you want to sign up and you want to sign up for 2 steps of being a generosity transformer, maybe you want to do, Corey and I have committed to being generosity transformers for everyone in our family. I'm telling you that. We signed up for online recurring giving. I'm not asking you to do anything we haven't done. We'll send you the cards. You want cards for your kids so you can talk about it and show them what you're doing, the decisions that you've made, and create those conversations? We'll send you cards for the whole family. But take this time, pray about it, fill out this card, commit to partnering with us and participating in the story that God's writing here at Heritage, and allowing Him to use your story to be a part of someone else's story of life change. And once you fill this out, on your way out, there'll be some guys with buckets. Drop it in the bucket, and let's celebrate together moving forward. Next weekend is going to be a big weekend. There'll be a lot of people step in this building who are coming to hear a message of hope and in something and someone that they can put their trust and confidence in. You guys stand up.
I'm letting go of every single dream. I lay each one down at your feet. Every moment of my wandering never changes what you see. I've tried to win this war, I confess. My hands are weary, I need your rest. Mighty warrior, king of the fight. No matter what I face, you're by my side. When you don't move the mountains, I'm needing you to move. When you don't part the waters, I wish I could walk through. When you don't give the answers as I cry out to you, I will trust, I will trust, I will trust in you.
coming today. Thank you for your generosity. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you Friday at 7.